So we're just getting into the session now. Apologies for being on mute. That's not the first time I've done that, so apologies for that. As Josh McGill is on and out lap, as you can see. So as I was saying, we'll go back, just do a redo. We're here at the Abu Dhabi circuit for the second round of the season in the Wednesday tier. This circuit has 16 corners, it's 5.28 kilometres and 3.281 miles. 2 DRS zones here. Your best chance of overtaking are at turn 6 and turn 9 down the end of the back straight. And obviously it was reprofiled in 2021. And it's the most expensive circuit ever built for Formula 1. The tyres are the C5 soft, C4 medium, and C3 hard tyre. Just a quick go back to the standings. As I just said on mute, Rossum is on 28 points, winning his debut race. Matthew in second, third Josh McGill, Tiny fourth, RSI Markey in fifth. Aston Martin's on 37 points, 30 points for Ferrari, and 28 points for McLaren. So, as you can see, we're riding on board with Josh McGill in the McLaren for the Wednesday tier, driving for Ferraris in Monday. As we get everything up on the clock, we have a dry conditions as we usually do in Abu Dhabi. I don't think I've ever commentated on a wet race at the As Marina circuit, so we can have a good benchmark for pole, which was set in F1 23. It was on season 14 and the final round of that season. It was a 121.960. I wonder if we're going to be quicker in F1 24 around here. Some tracks have been quicker and some haven't. A 123.2 there for RTG Matthew. As we go through the final corner, and a 122.6. So we'll go back to that pole time a bit later on and have a look at it again. So, who's up next? Oh, I just missed him there. It was Royal Rumble, who had just set a lap time there. Fifth fastest for him, just behind his Ferrari teammate. And we do have a couple of reserves this evening on this 16-car grid. I was only able to get one of them down because one of them came very last minute, which is Greaves in the other Haas. So the two Haas's have the reserve cars. I believe they're still actually free and no one's taken those seats for Wednesday just yet. But yeah, just to note that it's not just Ashton Army, it is also Greaves. Both Haas cars are the reserve cars for this evening. As we're just watching Tiny now exit the first chicane, as Paul Jones just set a lap there with a 122.6 for him, as we wait to see Tiny come into turn 9. Have a look at the telemetry as we have got it back again. As we watch Tiny come into the penultimate corner, he has invalidated his lap time. I was looking away from the screen when that happened, and Chuck on a lap not far behind, coming into the hotel section at turn 12 through 13 and over to the right hand side before we pull back to the left again at turn 14. Didn't get very close to the wall on the outside, not using all of the track through the flat out penultimate corner into the final of turn 16. Stays to the left hand side for the line. It's a 123.1 and it's fourth place for Chuck. As Ginge crosses the line, a 123.034 for him. And I think Chuckle's in the wrong car, is he? He certainly is. He's supposed to be in the Williams and he's chosen the Alpine got the wrong car for this evening. Murph just started a lap and using the overtake button. This a game, of course, where the ERS deployment has changed and you can sort of adapt it throughout the lap instead of using the one hot lap mode. So that brings another element into your raceability as we go through the haze in the background there, with Murph coming up towards the turn 6-7 hairpin chicane, sorry, and probably the best place to overtake on this circuit as we go now down the run towards turn 9, exiting turn 8, which is that slight left-hander, and you're always turning slightly right down this second back straight, where it's the other place where you have DRS here, and through the long swooping turn 9 before we go in to the hotel section. Murph now just come into the pit lane. So, who's just crossed the line there? I think that was Matthew. It was. He went up to 4th place, a 122.7 with just under 9 minutes left in qualifying. We'll ride on board with Tiny for the rest of his lap. So, Tiny did a 123.3. He did invalidate on his in-lap there, I think. At the very end, Danny is on a flying lap at the moment, down in 16th place. He's done a personal best first sector. But that, of course, is just protocol when you haven't done a lap as of yet. I think he'll have enough time to do one more lap after this one, as Paul Jones goes fastest overall with a 122.3. Remember, it's a 121.9 in F1 23. We're pretty close to that time, about 4 tenths off at the moment. Danny now into turn 9. Got to be super committed on the exit here and try and run it out as wide as possible without taking all 4 wheels over the white line into the stadium section at turn 12 before we go under the bridge. So it connects the 2 parts of the hotel, sliding through there. Looks like there's a lack of grip underneath him in that final sector. Through the penultimate corner, which is now flat out, and then sliding the car through the final corner. This isn't going to be too quick, it isn't. A 124.9 for him there, as Tiny is just coming into the pits. It did say he did a purple middle sector there. So I think Greaves is on a lap. Certainly is. Coming through the long 90 degree into 10, 11 and then braking for turn 12 with the hotel directly ahead of you. You kind of want to stay, as you saw there, in the middle of the track between 12 and 13 because you've got to turn left again. So you want to minimise the route that you're actually taking rather than opening up the corner. It's the lesser of two evils through the final corner with the Haas car giving you a bit of a tow. He goes 12th fastest with 5 minutes and 40 seconds left on the clock. So if you weren't here last week, Matthew took pole last time around in Japan, and on the front row alongside him, I believe, oh, I've not done that right. Oh, I've made a mistake and I've just realised I've done it. Well, RSI Mark, who's in the top 3, I haven't put who was alongside him on the front row. Have to go back and check that. Oh, there was a mistake I've made. But yes, he did get pole anyway last week. He did get himself on the podium. He got himself a 2nd place last week afterwards, so he didn't convert it into a win. He's down in 5th at the moment. Let's see what he can do. Paul Jones did start inside the top 10 last week, but he's on provisional pole at the moment. Is RSI Markey. I think he's just set a lap, and everyone I think struggling with the grit levels here at the Yas Marina circuit. Everyone's sliding through the corners, really wrestling with the car. Danny, I believe, is on a lap. But if they were, they aren't going faster. As Markey was on a quick lap, he did say on my screen he's done a purple first sector, the 2nd sector, but he has invalidated anyway. I think he'll be coming in to the pit lane. To put a fresh set of tyres on and to get back out again for one final run. So Tiny is out on an outlap here, the first of the drivers out on their outlaps. I think Royal Rumble has just set a time, and that would be his final run now. Oh, sorry. I just had the stream up, so on my phone. Apologies for that. Right, so Perm Bowden off the road there. His drivers now start exiting the pit lane. The pit lane here is unique, of course, with actually entering on the right hand side of the track and then exiting on the left hand side where you go underneath the circuit, just out of the pit lane. See the board lighting up with drivers saying they're on their out laps. As Tiny, I believe, is on a fast lap here. He's on a personal best first sector. Let's see how he does in the second. It was a 17.5 in that first sector. around the sort of averages actually of the top half of the grid. Into turn 6 and 7. Cars looking so edgy, under braking, using the overtake button out of turn 7 and through turn 8 as we go down the second DRS zone. As we hit the brakes, it's only a personal best middle sector for him. It's a 35.0, again around the quicker times. Oh, the McLaren has gotten in the way there. Was that Perm Bowden? It wasn't. It was Josh McGill. That might go to the stewards. As Tiny comes around the final corner, that may have well and truly messed up his final attempt here. I think it has. He was 2 tenths up. He was much faster than that though, without that mistake. Oh, and who was that? So now Alpine there, who he's actually now had an incident with. That must have been Chuckle, who Tiny has come together with there. They, I'm sure, will be having words later on as we now are into the final part of qualifying. As the checker flag now comes out, and we'll now wait to see who will be the first drivers to cross the line. It's Tiny and Chuckle. Tiny 5-place grid penalty there. I think justice may have been served somewhat as we wait for Chuck, but while we wait for him, he's going to come into the pits because he's invalidated his lap time as Chuckle retires from the session. Here comes RSI Markey, the first driver to cross the start-finish line. He stays where he is. Who's up next? It's Paul Jones who's come into the pits. We've got Matthew now on provisional pole. He took pole last week in Japan. Is it going to be 2 out of 2 for him here as a load of drivers come across the line here? Josh McGill on provisional pole here, and we now wait for Super Striker to come around the final corner. He's up in the first sector. He's up overall, but only by a very, very small margin. The RB of Tiny comes into the pits. We're just waiting for Perm Bowden, and that is the end of qualifying in round 2 of the Wednesday tier. And Josh McGill is on pole, and Matthew alongside him on the front row. So that is the end of qualifying. Josh McGill took pole, and we weren't as fast, but we were close to the pole time in F1 23. Matthew alongside him on the front row. Paul Jones is third, Super Striker 4th, Chuckle 5th, Rotham starting 6th, 7th is Ginge, 8th is Chuck, RSI Markey 9th, 10th Tiny, 11th Murph, Royal Rumble 12th, 13th Grease, Danny 14th, Perm Bowden in 15th, and 16th is Real Ashton Army. And we now wait for the start of the formation lap. We will be back in a moment. So, as the formation lap gets underway, we'll see what tyres everyone's chosen to go on to. And no one, I don't think anyone yet on F124 in the first 2 weeks have started on the soft tyres. Actually, I don't think they have. But yeah, majority mediums just. 11 mediums to 5 soft, 5 hard tyres. I think I was going colourblind. Into the chicane at turn 6 and 7, whilst drivers now warm up the tyres. The sun will start setting over the circuit. We'll be back for the start. So as the drivers now line up on the grid for the start of the second round of the season, it's Matthew and Josh on the front row. And we're away for the second round of the season in the Wednesday tier in Abu Dhabi. And Josh is in the lead going into the first turn. He had a good start as Paul Jones is in third as we go through. And no one has made an overtake in the first few corners as of yet. Through turn 3 and 4 as we go down the hill into the hairpin of turn 6. Is anyone going to go for a lunge at this point on the circuit? As we can see, Chuckle, drag racing, Super Striker down towards turn 6. There will be a bit of the track that gets cut out here as they go down the dip as Chuckle defends further to the inside. As we look further back here, the Ferrari of Royal Rumble going up the inside on Murph and then has to go the long way round at turn 7 as they go through the curve of turn 8 and on towards turn 9. Royal Rumble back in his starting position. Greaves up 2 places from the start. He is now inside the top 10. Is Tiny out to that 5-place grid penalty, already up 3 places in the first half of the lap. So the top 3 has yet to change. Will that be the case when we end the next lap as we start lap 2? DRS now enabled. Of course, a new feature for the 2024 rules. I'm in favour of those rules. It's much nicer to have the DRS quicker. As we go through turns 3 and 4, this is where we'll have the detection point for that first DRS zone out of this corner, and then we will have the activation point just up and over the hill on the exit of turn 5. Super Striker looking like he's eyeing up a move to take back that 5th place as Ginge gets past his teammate here, the race winner from last week in his debut season in RTG, the only driver on a different platform than PlayStation at the moment in the Wednesday tier is RSI Markey and Chuckle swap places. We do have a yellow flag, and that's for Perm Bowden and Ashton Army, who have come together down the bottom of the order. Sorry about that. We almost had Chuck there, going around the outside at the hotel section. As Rotten goes a bit wide there. And Chuck getting a good launch. He was thinking about it there. He thought about the outside and then the inside afterwards, when Rotten pulled across back to the racing line. And the DRS being enabled early on does make a big difference, I think, because the pack stays together for a lot longer, I think. We can see overtakes here again. Rotten just moving back. He's lost place on Chuck and now lost place on RSI Markey. As RSI Markey goes to the inside on RTG Chuck. And he's up into 7th place. Here comes Matthew, looking to the outside of Josh McGill, and he goes around the outside at turn 9, and he's up into the lead. Signed, sealed and delivered from Matthew at turn 9 on lap 3. And top 6 just starting to break away as there's a fight for 7th between, really, there's 4 cars involved here, or 4 different teams, the Red Bull, Williams, Aston Martin and V-Carb. As we go through the final corner, this is the only straight that doesn't have the DRS as well, remember. It is quite a short start-finish straight here. Chuckle has got Super Striker for company here, just behind him. Thought about the dummy at turn 5 to put him off. Of course, you get the DRS out of the corner, but you get the detection point is before the corner, so it's always a good idea to think about and have a go at getting past it, that hairpin. Here goes Super Striker now with that DRS, even though Chuck will have DRS to defend. That Mercedes looking very quick in a straight line as he goes all the way around the outside and completes it at the exit of the chicane. As the lead changes hands once again here. Oh, who's that? That's Matthew. He's around. The driver that was on pole last week is now falling down the order, and dare I say it, could be down in almost last here. Luckily, he had Ashton Army and Pern Bowden who came together earlier on, but now he's down in 14th place. So I don't think we'll see any pit stops for a little while. Remember, everyone started on the medium and hard tyre. I can't imagine we'll see pit stops until the early 10s. Maybe more likely to be the early teens, actually, where we'll start to see overtakes. Rotten and Royal Rumble swapping places as Paul Jones now takes the lead for the first time today after Matthew fell down, and it opened the opportunity for other drivers to fight with the lead car as Josh now fights back with DRS. And Paul not having DRS, but having some big kahoonies to really force Josh to the outside. But he gets a great launch out of turn 9, has the opportunity for the inside, he has the high ground, and he's back into the lead again. So this has well and truly turned into a 5-car fight for the lead. You can see a smaller pack just following behind, a couple of seconds back, 2.5 seconds back. Oh, Josh almost losing the car over the curve. It is a very aggressive curve on the exit of the first corner here. Doesn't like it when you put the right foot into the carpet. out to the final corner. DRS straight again. DRS available for all the cars behind Josh McGill. Paul going to the inside here, defending and attacking, I think, all at the same time. And he goes back past again in the place he did the lap previous. But does that mean that Josh is just going to come straight back at him again with DRS to help him along, as there's 2 activation points? We've got a yellow flag flying. Not too sure who that was for. Is Super Striker and Paul Jones switch places here, and Josh McGill back into the lead once again. Getting very feisty indeed. It's side by side between Super Striker and Paul Jones, but Josh McGill loses it on the exit of turn 12, and now the fight for the lead is opened up again, and Josh having a similar fate to his rival Matthew a few laps earlier, and he's down in 9th place. I'm not sure if he's got wing damage as well. I think he has, because he's coming into the pits. It wasn't very often in F1 23 we saw mistakes from that man, but we've seen a couple of them in the first few races in the first couple of weeks of F1 24. Super Striker now the driver who'll be firmly looking in his mirrors. Maybe so will Paul Jones, as Ginge looks like he's on the attack here. As we go down the back straight again. Remember, the 2 DRS zones are the 2 DRS zones have 2 detection points as well, so that's why you're seeing this switching and changing between the 2 straights. So Josh now out not too far behind his teammates, and he's gone onto the hard tyre, presumably to try and go to the end. So that's interesting. Josh in again for the medium tyre. It's another front wing change for him. Maybe he didn't actually get it changed last time around, as Ginge and Lee. Sorry, I'm getting all the names mixed up today. It was Ginge and Paul, as Tiny and Chuckle switch places there as well. As Breeze had the DRS on Motto, who now has to just use the slipstream to try and salvage the 9th place. He might not have salvaged it for long, as he makes a mistake on the exit of turn 9, and Danny all over the back of that Aston Martin. Now we've seen these 2 teams, the Sauber and Aston Martin, of both sets of drivers fighting with each other in the first opening laps. As we go out to the final corner and on to the start-finish straight, Danny again sliding the Sauber out of the corner. We've got a yellow flag. That for Pern Bowden, I think it was. And as we see that yellow flag, RSI Markey, oh, and Chuckle go into each other here. We didn't see the start of that, and I'm not too sure what's happened. Chuckle been involved with some bodily contact between cars a few times today, whether it's been his fault or not. He's been certainly drawn into other cars today. Here comes RSI Markey, back at Chuckle. There may be some love lost between them. So marking now in 5th place, overtaking the Alpine, who still got this very close fight between 4 cars for the lead. Tiny, though, does have a time penalty. He has a 3-second time penalty to his name. So as we go on to lap 10, third of the way through the race, and chuckle into the pits. Onto the hard tyres for a longer stint to carry him to the end of the race. So I wonder when any of the top 4 will pit. Paul Jones and Tiny both on the medium tyre. Super Striker and Ginge both on the hard. So they should, with logic, stay out longer than Paul Jones and Tiny. But you never know, they might pit earlier. There may even be a safety car, something like that. As Greaves comes into the pits, and I haven't put it up yet, but the pit stop here is quite a long one under green flag conditions, 20 seconds, but the discount when you get the VSC or safety car is huge here. It's a 7-second discount, and it's 13 seconds under a VSC or a safety car. There's a 50% chance of safety cars actually happening as well here. So I could see Paul coming in the next 2 to 3 laps along with Tiny. And of course, Tiny's penalty is going to stay with him for the entire race. You can't serve 3-second time penalties, unfortunately for them. I think from a spectator's point of view, I think I'd rather you were able to serve the 3-second penalties. One of the top 3 is into the pits. It's Tiny on lap 12, and will Paul respond on this lap? Tiny comes out of the box. He's on the hard tyres. Hard tyres for Matthew as well. He did spin earlier on as well, remember, as we watch Tiny go under the track here and pop out as a turn on the left hand side on the exit of turn 3. And there's Matthew going to pop out close to Royal Rumble. And Royal does have Murph only half a second behind him. He looked like he almost missed his braking zone here. Top 3 still together. Super Striker, Paul Jones and Ginge. Obviously Tiny has broke off from that after pitting earlier than the other 3, and I'm wondering if Paul will pit at the end of this lap to cover off Tiny's potential undercut threat. He does indeed. Paul goes in, and that will be for the hard tyres. So they're going to be doing around the 17-18 lap mark. So we should see the top 3 stay out for another 5 laps or so. as RSI Marquis now starting to catch up with the leaders as well. And this could become a very interesting race towards the end, actually, because there's still quite a lot of drivers in play here. When everything's said and done, though, is Tiny. Thought he could get past Paul Jones on the exit of turn 3, but Paul just popped out of the pit lane exit just ahead of him. Tiny will have DRS, though, to get past Paul Jones. The undercut almost worked for him there. He looked to the left and then he had to go to the right as Paul moved at the very last second. And I'm going to attempt something live on stream. Bear with me. Sorry, I'll try that another time. He's having typing things. Everything's come up on the screen. Bear with me a sec. It's all going wrong. There we go. Back to normal. Sorry, back on that 15. Apologies for that one. So, Super Striker leading at the moment. RSI Marquis now comes into the pits on the hard tyre. Lap 16, like I said it could have been. So, quite a few have pit now. Chuck is out of the race. He's retired in the pits for some reason. me just a second. Sorry, apologies. I was trying to test something the other day and I was trying to see if it would work and it wouldn't. And I'm trying to get rid of things and everything's going wrong now. We'll get back to normal. Bear with me a sec. There we go. So, recap. Rossum hasn't pit. Everyone else is pit around. Paul Jones would technically be the net leader at the moment. Tiny is just behind him. Chuckle not too far behind here as RSI Marky and Matthew going side by side in the chicane there. Marky on the charge after putting on that fresh set of mediums. Now Matthew actually gets back past with the aid of the DRS. You're watching RTG TV. You're watching the second round of the Wednesday tier here in Abu Dhabi. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Our target is 400 at the end of this season. If you're watching and interested in joining any of the 3 tiers, Monday, Wednesday or Thursday, the Discord link is at the top of the channel. We've got some free seats available definitely in Wednesday. I think we might have 1 or 2 in Monday and Thursday. Those 2 tiers are a 2-tier system and PlayStation only, and this is a mixed tier system on a Wednesday and cross-play as well. So we've got yellow flags again down the hill at turn 5 as National Army looked like they had spun out. As we've got a close fight here between Ginge and RSI Marky, and we've got the Mercedes of Super Striker and the Ferrari of Matthew ahead of them fighting as well. It's Tiny and Paul Jones switch places here, and we've now, I think, had everyone pit who was in that front group. It looks like at the moment it's between Paul Jones and Tiny as we go into the downhill stage of this race. But of course Tiny has a 3-second time penalty, so he'll just be hoping that Paul gets the same later on. Oh, Tiny made a big mistake there. He's made one again. He's gone off the racing line and now off the road. And he's almost jumping the car over the bumps. And he's now, for some reason, going slowly. As we see in the background here, Royal Rumble and Murph switching places. Murph almost looked like he backed out there, maybe, to get the DRS to get the position back, maybe? As Josh McGill sets the fastest lap of the race. He's down in 13th place. And that lap time was a 1:24.768. So a couple of seconds off the qualifying pace a bit earlier on. So Paul now 1.5 seconds or just over that in the lead. It's just started to become a bit of a stalemate at this point. We've had everyone pit, so the sun is coming down now. We're going to be into the full darkness in the not too distant future. There was a big fight for third place though, I think. Maybe even second, as Chuckle has got a time penalty as well. 3 seconds for him. So Rotten was our first race winner in the Wednesday tier. Yeah, Josh and Matthew on the podium alongside him. Matthew still got a chance of getting a podium after his spin in the early parts of the race. Everyone's seeming to struggle with the grip again. Look at Tiny completely going sideways there through most corners, again through the final corner of turn 18. Rotten with a penalty. We've got a yellow flag deployed. That's a DNF. I believe it's in the pits for Greaves. We're down to 14 of the 16 who started today. And Matthew lost a couple of places as Ginge gains a couple into turn 6. We're going to see these guys switch places into turn 9 again. They're very close, but no one was close enough to even be alongside into turn 9. You have to really be quite certain into turn 9 because it is quite a quick corner. It's much quicker than it used to be when it was a 3-part chicane. It was quite a heavy braking zone. Paul almost 4 seconds in the lead. So remember, this could be a fight for a podium place with Chuckle having that 3-second time penalty with not too many laps to go. Chuckle is reining in on Super Striker. That will help him potentially secure a third place. Getting a buffer between him and the next car. Lovely helicopter shot there through the final few corners on the lap. We've still got these three close together. And they got Rotten not too far behind, but he has a 3-second time penalty as we go into the final part of the race. Here comes RSI Markey, big lunge for him on the inside at turn 6. And he's into 4th and got some clear air ahead of him. And let's see if he can do something with it. Because Chuckle and Super Striker are not too far down the road. As we go through the final couple of corners and onto lap 24 for RSI Marquee. And starting this lap, we've got RSI Marquee in 4th place, and he is actually closing in on Chuckle. Hasn't been able to break the DRS window though. We still haven't fully seen the sunset. Maybe we won't see the sunset fully. But now 1.5 the gap between him and Chuckle. And he somehow seemed to have dropped back from Super Striker. He's now 2.5 seconds behind him when he looked like he was in a position a lap or two ago to actually overtake him on the racetrack. Murph and Royal Rumble switching places there. That'll be at the chicane at turn 6 and 7. Has Markey got the pace here to challenge Super Striker? As we go into the final few corners. Yeah, as we go into the final few corners of the lap, we're going to lap 26 to 29. And Chuckle gets another 3-second time penalty. Chuckle has spun now at the final corner. It really hasn't been his day, and I can imagine he's going to be retiring. Or is he going to go for the fastest lap point and try and salvage something from this race? Josh McGill out of the race as well. He will not be scoring any points after his podium last week. Oh, RSI Markey, he's round as well. He's made contact with the Aston Martin of Rotham, and Matthew in 3rd place now. And I believe if Matthew stays where he is with the consistency, he would be taking the lead of the championship into round 3. But he's not Ginge, not too far behind. And Rotham as well, but Rotham having the 3-second time penalty to his name. And Paul Jones almost 5 seconds in the lead. Super Striker, he's had a very good race, a very quiet race at that as well. But he's been doing well, stayed out of trouble. There's been a lot of overtaking, but also a lot of drivers making contact with each other, a few incidents here and there. But I feel Super Striker has stayed out of the way of all that. Tiny as well, made it quite a few places after getting the 5th place grid penalty. Probably would be someone I would be considering for driver of the day, but seeing as he did get that 5th place grid penalty, I just don't think I can really actually consider it, unfortunately. But I'll get back to you on who I will pick as we're on the penultimate lap now, as Paul Jones starts at 28 to 29. Looks like Matthew is going to get that 3rd place finish if he can stay where he is and stay on the road, not get a time penalty or not drop the car through a corner. Pretty consistent so far as well, Matthew. Of course, last week, Rotten, he got driver of the day. And as we're at the penultimate lap, I think I am going to give the driver of the day to Super Striker as Chuckle sets that fastest lap and he's trying to get that extra point to salvage something as Murph and Royal Rumble swap places. I think that'll be my call for driver of the day. It's this man here, Super Striker. So as we start the final lap with Paul Jones, just try to stay away from the race winner getting the driver of the day as well, given it a couple of times already this season, so that's why we're going for a different choice, but it's certainly an honourable mention for driver of the day. We've done very, very well. Pitt earlier on, obviously starting on the mediums, finishing on the hard tyre. Had Tidy try and do an undercut on him, which was very close, but Paul was able to withhold the pressure, hold on to his position and keep everything under wraps. So very, very good performance from him. Is Ginge and Rotten going to switch places again? Is Royal Rumble and Murph switching places? Go back to Ginge and Rotten as they go into turn 9. Pretty much the final serious overtaking spot on the lap as Ginge goes to the inside at turn 9. In the 9 Aston Martin, he's past his teammate and into 4th place. And as we watch Paul Jones now make his way around the penultimate and final corner, he takes his first win in season 16 on F1 24, and it's one win in Abu Dhabi for Paul Jones. And will this be a title fight between him and Josh McGill? Super Striker comes home in 2nd, Matthew over the line in 3rd, and then Ginge in 4th. 5th place for Rotten after his win last week. They've had a very good haul of points again in the 2nd round. RSO Markey finishes in 6th. We wait for Tiny in 7th, and then 8th place for Murph, with Royal Rumble right on his gearbox here as they come across the line. They do switch around the places. Danny crosses the line, maybe he'll gain a place. He does. He moves up into 9th as we wait for Ginge and Real Ashton Army, who hasn't had the greatest of races. really cruising to the line for him at this point. And he spun around at the penultimate corner. It won't make a difference. Didn't lose his entire front wing, just the left front end plate, as he comes around the final corner now to finish off the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. And there is your race winner, Paul Jones Jr., for his first win on F1 24 in RTG. So the game's given Tiny. I've given it to Super Striker. A bit of a change of opinion for me. So the final order of today, Paul Jones wins the race with a race time of 42 minutes and 20 seconds. Super Striker in second. Third was Matthew. Ginge finished in fourth. Rotten was fifth. Sixth was RSI Markey. Seventh, Tiny. Eighth was Royal Rumble. Ninth was Danny, and Murph rounds out the top 10. Chuckle finished in 11th with the fastest lap point as well. Perm Bowden finished in 12th. Real Ashton Army finished in 13th. The drivers that didn't finish were Josh McGill, Greaves and Chuck. So that concludes the second round of the season in the Wednesday tier. Thanks very much everyone who's joined us and had two different race winners now in the first two rounds, and believe it or not, Josh McGill has taken part in both and not won either of them. Shock, horror. To go to the calendar for next week, we will be going to the streets of Singapore for the third round of the season, so keep your eyes out on that one. And if you're joining us for tomorrow, we'll be back with me and Lee for the full qualifying 50% race at Silverstone for the British Grand Prix. If not, hopefully we'll see you back next Wednesday for this cross-tier mixed performance tier. So we'll just go back onto that for a second. So yeah, thanks very much for watching. You've been watching the second round of the season in Abu Dhabi for the Wednesday tier. If you want to be joining these and you like what you see, the Discord links at the top of the channel. And if you're just enjoying the content, make sure you hit that subscribe button and like the video as well. It'd be much appreciated if you could. So we'll be back tomorrow night for the second round of the season and the final race of the week in GP2. And if you don't see us then, we'll hopefully see you next Wednesday for the Singapore Grand Prix. Anyway, till tomorrow, thanks very much for watching.